let's take it from here. Honorable Commissioner, good morning.
Morning, how are you? It's been a while.
Been a while, and I'm glad to see what I've seen at least in Asaba, since I came back. And I think that the government has done quite a number of things. But there are a few other things to address, in your different capacities. Let me first talk about some things that has to do with the Ministry of Works, and that has to do with roads in some parts of Delta. And I'll start from Asaba. I hear about an area called Kotomi. I hear that the road is
Where's your paramazes?
towards the water.
To make what?
Yes, I hear it's very bad. And then there's the road pit by 74 that people have also talked about. Many streets have been tarred, which is a good thing. One of the streets, as I moved around, Fepo Odogu Street, has a street before it tarred, a street after tarred, that particular one, and then some of the residents, they are wondering what is our own offense. Infant Jesus area still has issues with road. Now let me leave you to react to some of these ones. Are these parts going to be part of the 2026 budget?
Well, thank you very much for first recognizing that a whole lot has been done since the last time you were in our state, and that you have also seen that there are some other areas that attention is requiring attention. You are very, very correct. Obviously, there will be areas requiring attention. Let's take a cue from even human being. When you wake up in the morning, you eat, they say it's breakfast. Like you have eaten breakfast, no matter how heavy it is, does not mean that when the afternoon comes, that you're not going to be looking in the direction of lunch. And then thereafter, you begin to also think of dinner, which means some of these things comes in sequences, the nature of human existence. Even if you have all the funds in this world, you are not going to be able to tar all the roads in one fell swoop. You must take them bit by bit, which is why year in, year out, you prepare a budget. You walk through your budget. What you are not able to do in a given year, you also push it into another year and then capture them in the following year. We are indeed a developing state, just like any other place in Nigeria. And so, which is why that concept, like you have from United Nations and other NGOs or global bodies, telling you what percentage you must put in an area, does not really work with us. Why is it not working with us? Because a number of areas that they don't talk about are areas where they have conquered. And those are the areas where we are just starting off from. For instance, the global community may not begin to tell you what percentage you need to put in road infrastructure, because most of those areas where those projections are coming from, they have been able to build their roads. So they can tell you, put this one in education, put this one in health, put this one in climate change, and all those ones. But because we need to open up our communities, get our people to be able to communicate by way of transiting from one place to the other, commuting from one place to the other, and being able to interact with their kids and kin in neighboring communities, it becomes expedient that we tackle the issue of interconnectivity via roads and bridges. And that is what we are doing. And because too, for instance, you mentioned Asaba, is about the fastest growing state capital in Nigeria today. What that means is that you are now having more influx of people into the capital territory. An influx of people means that there will be pressure on the available accommodation. And because there's some form of pressure on the available accommodation, you see somehow an upward, more like a geometric progression in terms of the rent, because demand is, of course, outrunning supply. And once that happens, those who are business-minded will also want to come in to build more houses. And to build more houses does not mean you are going to build on top of the one that I have built before. You will now need to go and look for another land. Looking for another land adds to the expansion of the city. And most of the time, you may be looking for that land in an area that was hitherto regarded as bush. And once you go in there to start building, farmland will become plots of land. And when it becomes plots of land, it means that people are now carrying out some form of development within that particular axis. What does that mean? It also triggers of further demands for more roads to be built. So you now have much more number of roads that requires construction on account of this geometric progression in terms of the development and in terms of the requirement that you need to be able to meet up with the influx of people within the capital city of Asaba. And so, if it were to be a question of the old Asaba, you will have seen that every road is not only paved, but that every road will be looking very, very closely. But this pressure, which funds does not always meet up with, almost agree with the Malthusian theory in terms of economics and food production, where he talked about the population growing at geometric progression and then food production growing at arithmetic progression. Though in the course of time, there have been a whole lot of improvement in terms of food production that have been able to also try to meet up with the growth in population, while population control has also come in. But now coming back to the issues you raised, the geometric progression has not been matched with also commensurate inflow of funds. But I am happy you recognize that a whole lot is being done. So for some of those areas, we'll only tell them that, like Raskimuno Blessed Memory said, leko by leko, which means bit by bit.
Of the 1.664 trillion naira budget presented to the Delta State House of Assembly by His Excellency Dr. Sheriff Iborowori, 450 billion naira has been given out in that budget to the Ministry of Works. And we hear that it's going to take roads even in communities, maybe some of those deep communities. But there is a road that I hear is a federal road. Is the Agbo-Warri Road. I hear actually that it's a federal road. But I know that state governments, including Delta, would at some point do those roads when it's very important to their people, and then they probably begin to ask for a refund from the federal government at the end of the day. Are you thinking about this?
Well, that's a refund for quite some time now. The federal government have not seriously committed to paying back funds deployed for the maintenance of the roads that are classified as a federal corridor. But our governor has not been bogged down by that particular tendency of not getting the money back. He has intervened and is still continuing to intervene in a number of areas. The bridges you hear that we are building in Warri and the expansion of those corridors, they are all within the federal alignment. What we are doing in Uromi Junction, 59 billion naira flyover to cross people from the Uromi axis into the Abo axis, heading towards this particular road you are talking about, is also on that same road, 59 billion by the state government, even if it's a federal road. The 39 billion we are paying in Otowodo to also construct a flyover is also within the east-west road that is also classified as a federal government road. The 35 billion naira we also put in along the Warri Saple Benin road is also a federal corridor. That is just to mention a few of the interventions we're having with respect to federal route.
Are you saying that 59 billion is going to be spent on the Warri Abo Road?
No, yes, that particular Warri Abo Road, that flyover we are building, and it's on that road alone. It's on that road alone. Now, we cannot take up all the federal roads in one fell swoop because we still have other challenges that we need to do. What our government has done in the course of time is to say that yes, these are federal roads, but the people passing those places are our people and not just federal people. And so because they are our people, the Oborowori administration have put in so much in terms of several billions into construction of roads, well over 300 billion into intervention in federal roads. Now, not too long ago, to also ensure a form of a fast track of the construction of the approach road 17.5 kilometers from the Iselazaba axis to head to be able to meet up the second Niger bridge, our government had to come in to take up the compensation requirement of that particular construction. We paid as much as 10 billion for compensation of properties within that particular alignment to enable the federal authorities bring in their contractor to clear, which of course has been done now. If you pass through that as it, you see that it has been cleared. They are already continuing with the earthwork, and very soon they may begin to stone base. And I can also see by the time you travel from here now to Iselazaba, you could see that there's a place where they're already working with the pies that will be able to take care of the bridge, the flyover, that will now make them to connect through the Benin Onitsha Express. It's also being done. So all those are being carried out. But we do plead with the federal authorities to also intensify action with respect to some of these roads that are seriously challenged. There are three of them. One is the Benin Onitsha road, Benin Asaba Onitsha road. Good enough, the federal government has already concessioned from the Benin axis up to the Summit Road junction has been concessioned. And the concessionaire I can see is already working from the Benin axis. The second tranche of that particular corridor, that alignment, is from the Summit junction all the way to the head bridge. That one has also been given out, has also been contracted out by the federal government. The only challenge we're having is that the contractors are, particularly for this particular I mentioned, are saying that they have not been mobilized. And you know, you are talking about contracts that require several billions that have not been mobilized. And you know that the traffic count on that corridor is something else in terms of large number. Now, the federal government have also started work along the Benin-Sapele-Warri axis from the Benin end. So if you get to that place, even up there, already gotten into Delta, you could see that one part of the road, they have done considerable job with respect to the concrete pavement of that particular route. That is the same area where we are now from the beginning, coming from the spare parts market, getting straight to Ohoro Junction, which is about 5 kilometers on both sides to give you about 10 kilometers. That job is progressing speedily. It's being handled by CCECC. It's being done by our own state government. The governor awarded that particular job for as much as 35 billion. It's a federal alignment. So what that tells you is that we have not been discriminatory in terms of what road project to undertake, whether federal or state. But you do know that our primary responsibility will be state roads, because that is what our people will also judge us on. But because the governor believes that our people are also the ones that apply this federal route, we have had to carry out a whole lot of interventions. But in doing that, we still plead with the federal government not to forget that this is actually their primary responsibility. Even if because we belong to one party, because we believe that our people are the ones using the roads. But of course, you know that the kind of tonnage of high tonnage vehicles and the traffic that apply that corridor on account of the road being a trunk A road is something more than what you see in some of the other trunk B, trunk C routes that are state-owned roads.
Okay, I'm going to leave works, but let me just...
And let me also correct one impression. It's not only 450 billion that we are putting into road construction for the 2026 fiscal year. It's far more than that. You're already talking about what is coming to those Ministry of Works, Rural Roads, and Riverine Routes. And the Ministry of Works, Highway and Urban. That's only 2 ministries. The Ministry of Urban Renewal is also building roads. They have their own budget. The Capital Territory Development Agency is also building roads within the Asaba Capital Territory. The Warri Uwe and Environs Development Agency is also building roads. They also have components in their own budgets. The Directorate of Riverine Infrastructure is also building roads. They also have budgets for the purpose of building roads in some part of the riverine communities.
Don't you think that works?
So at the end of the day, the government, and then we also have another 100 billion, 10 local government interventions, which will largely still be devoted into road construction within the local government. That's 4 million per local government. So when you put billion rather per local government, so when you put all those together, you could see that most likely the road sector will be taking over 600 billion of the budget, which is more than 50% of the capital side of the budget.
Okay, you've spoken about, your commitment as a government to federal roads, in spite of the fact that it is not primary. So I'm not going to talk about the Eku Abraka road.
That is the same what you have mentioned. That is the same thing that goes from Abo. It's actually the same road. It's the same road from Abo. Actually, that road tees off from Murumi, from Irua. That road starts from Irua, enters through Rumi, then it passes through Abede. No, not Abede. It passes through a Banke, a Wohimi, and then comes to Abo. From Abo, it continues to Abago, Umutu, Abraka, then it continues again to Eku, and then to all the way to Osubi, then lands at what's it called, the PTI junction.
Don't you think that the people would have preferred that the government spends the 59 billion spent on the bridge to actually do that road?
No. Whether you like it or not, that bridge is also going to be done. in trying to prepare that road, because number one, we have seen a whole number of lives claimed on account of accident because of the lack of that flyover. A number of individuals who want to turn in, maybe you are coming from Asaba, you want to turn into Abo. There is no proper provision for you to do that turning. And so a number of times you see, and you know it's a slope. And so trucks coming in from the Lagos end largely will now have to clear them off the road. And so this particular flyover is something that needed to be done. Once we're able to do it, to clear that corridor and some other extension of that road into the rooming houses and then off to the college junction. We are hoping, because the federal government also, that road is also under contract by the federal government. The issue is just the issue of funding. It is still the same road that if you go to the what's it called now, Amupe Axis, you will see that federal government is also really working from that axis. This same road you are talking about, that road actually continues and then heads towards Amupe, while the other one continues the same road. Because at the point when it gets to Eku, it is off. One goes towards Amupe, which is towards Saple Axis. That one is under construction, while the other one continues to Agalupe to what's it called now, Osubi, Kwofoko, and PTI junction. So that's how the route is, and our government has been very much involved in fixing particularly the Eku Abraka. Today the Eku Abraka is clean for you to pass through. You understand? Our government have been able to do that. There's another one we are doing again about 70 kilometers. I think Meriji, Kokuri, something in that axis. I cannot remember all the communities. Has been handled by our sister ministry, the Ministry of Highway and Urban Roads.
Ukunu Abraka Road is another road, and then Utoro.
Whatever we are doing them. The Golope Abraka Road is the one I mentioned that we have already done, which is the one that passes through Ukulu, Okwokoko, Usubi, Agalupe, and then before you now start coming towards the headquarters of Ope local government, which is Orudobe, and then heads towards Eku. That one we're using one construction company called Wishchino before now to be able to carry out an overlay repair of that particular corridor. And that same route is where you also have, is part of those things we're also doing with the bridges we're talking about in Warren. There is also road expansion. You know that road is also the one that passes through the airport in Usubi Airport. So a lot is also being done in that corridor. We have been able to look at the award some contracts that also head towards Saple from Lume heading towards Saple. Today as we speak, we have done a whole lot of internal roads in Saple. All these things are being done because we believe that once these urban areas are also revamped, it will not only change the skyline, it will also boost economic activities of our people who live within that particular environment.
Okay, let me move away from works for a while. I remember that back in the day when His Excellency Governor Arthur Ifeanyi was governor here, the local governments in Delta State had a lot of issues, and I remember you telling me at the time that the government had to intervene in their matters at the time, even though it wasn't the state government that had that responsibility at the time. What would you say about the health of the local governments in Delta State right now?
The local governments in Delta State have become very, very healthy and very, very responsive to the responsibilities assigned to them by the Nigerian Constitution. And the reason why that happened is because the governor, when he came in, saw the need to assist them to first of all address the issue of backlog of pensioners, which was an issue. And to the extent that 40 billion facility was obtained from consortium of banks backed by state government guarantee, and that is being tackled. So they were able to settle. So in Delta today, you no longer hear anybody coming to the street to occupy because of pension issues. The governor also, with respect to state pensions, there was a time where he had to release 10 billion naira to be able to deal with a whole lot of those outstanding liabilities. There are a number of such liabilities that the governor has dealt with. When we came in, the debt burden had risen to as much as over 450 billion. But today, we have less than 250 billion, which means that over 200 billion have been paid to address both those contractual obligations and other forms of loans that were obtained by the state before now. And so when you hear us say that we are very, very solvent, we are solvent not only because of the projects we are doing, we are solvent because the governor has also been able to deploy a whole lot of managerial skills, financial managerial skills, called it being prudent and also being very, very transparent in the management of our resources. Of course, you recall that has been a tradition. Whilst he was the Speaker of the House of Assembly, he saved as much as 500 million, which he had paid back to the state coffers. You know that is not one of those easy things that you will see coming from a politician. Because even if he had decided to share that 500 million amongst members, it would not be illegitimate. It would have been seen as part of the governance process. But he saw the need to pay that back to the coffers. And so that the man is saving money today and is able to pay contractors as much as 40% mobilization. It's not something that came out of the blues. It is in line with the tradition of being able to manage resources and manage it effectively and efficiently.
Deltas have heard that since the inception of the Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration, governors have begun to receive more money from the federal allocation, and then they look at the derivation, as also part of it, and then the IGR. And the people of Delta are feeling that our government should do much more than they are doing. I mean, right now we should have state transport service and all of those things to improve, the lives of the people here.
I don't know if you have traveled from here to Warri in recent time. Now, that used to be a journey that takes as much as 3 hours. Today, in 1 hour, 45 minutes, 50 minutes, you are in Warri. Because that's the longest route in the south-south to that pothole from beginning to the end. That is Delta money speaking for Delta. The bridges we are mentioning, the flyovers we are talking about, that is money that's in the hand of the government speaking. The fact that we mobilize contractors and we pay even civil servants before 25th or 26th of every month is the people's money speaking. That does not mean that we don't have other areas where we need to be able to also put in funds. But like I said earlier, quoting Raskimono, it's leco by leco, that's bit by bit. We take them one at a time. So, and as we're making progress, we're examining the issues, our humanitarian projects, our programs, all of them are kicking in. Today, we pay for about 10,000 widows to obtain free medical services. That is without prejudice to the number of under 5 and pregnant women that we also cater to in our health system. Which is why today we have over 2 million Deltans enrolled in our contributory health insurance. Number 1 in the country. And so there are a whole lot of things that the Oborowori government is doing to justify the funds at its disposal, including the fact that we remain very, very solvent and we have not had cause to approach any financial institution for any assistance because of that prudent management of our resources.
I hear about a Delta State Community Security Corps, and they say they are being owed. Are you aware of this?
I don't actually have that information. I don't know what Delta State Security is. I don't know who is there. In all honesty, I don't know. If you are talking about Operation Delta Street that I'm aware of, that we set up, that we deploy for services, not for the purpose of debt, and they are being given the resources to be able to help us with our security. But this Delta State Security, I don't know who set them up and who is owing them. Oborowori doesn't owe.
Okay. Now let's talk some politics. Delta State used to be a very, very viable, strong People's Democratic Party state that would not have anything to do with maybe an Action Congress of Nigeria back in the day or the current All Progressives Congress, APC. But out of the blues, the governor, members of the House of Assembly, and big names in Delta State governors all moved into the All Progressives Congress, APC, which is the ruling party. And the talk in town is that it happened because the Bola Tinubu administration has threatened the Delta State government, both the immediate past and the current, threatening them with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission on certain areas that are blur about the finances of the state.
I don't actually know your community. Maybe I would have been able to use an example that is local to your people in your community. So I wouldn't know how prevalent the consumption of palm wine is in your community. Otherwise, you would have realized, if you are used to it, that once the taste changes, obviously you need to adjust your drinking pattern. So it's not like every other drink that you take continuously. It's not like whiskey that is okay, this is what I can take, because like they say, go not the sour. But in the case of palm wine, there's a whole lot of fermentation. And when it ferments, the ability to take what you were taking at the initial time, when maybe they brought it out from the head and it's just being tapped, it's not the same. How does that apply to what we're talking about? There's a whole lot of change, or if you like, changes in the political atmosphere. PDP up to now is still immersed in one controversy or the other. But I pray and wish that they get out of it, because that is a party that is dear to the heart of a number of us. It's a party that have also helped in the elevation of a number of these persons you have talked about. But somehow, the challenges within the party became a little cancerous. That if you don't cut off such cancerous limb, the tendency to affect every other part of your system, including your nervous system, is quite apparent. And so it is said in my own community that it's only a tree that you will tell that tomorrow we are going to cut you off at this point, and the tree remains because it doesn't have a choice to move. But when you tell a human being that when you get to that junction, I'm going to shoot you, it is either that human being avoid getting to that junction, or when he gets to that junction, he needs to increase his pace of either walking or running, so that at the end of the day, he's able to save himself from that calamity. What was happening in the PDP at the time you talked about was such that remaining there makes your being able to come into the next election become very, very impracticable. And so our political leaders who had sway in the PDP, who made Delta to become a PDP state, reasoned that there is a bigger cancer that is not something that we alone can fix in our state, and that there is a whole lot of issues that remain unresolved despite all entreaties by well-meaning individuals that are in the party. As such, it was better to go to a ground where you are sure you can afford to have a ticket and no challenge on account of either litigation based on internal arrangements. Those were the major issues. Those who are talking about intimidation, I don't know what that means. I don't know.
So you want to assure Deltas that nobody intimidated it?
It's not about assurance. I am telling them that I'm not aware of any intimidation of it.
And you of all people should know.
Well, I was not intimidated to move. So I believe that nobody was intimidated.
Okay, let's talk about the 2027 election. The political gladiators, major political gladiators in Delta, have moved to the All Progressives Congress. But it probably doesn't mean that the people of Delta moved with them. Just thinking over my head.
When we look at 2027, we're not depending on just the political structure of political parties. We're depending on the work that Oborowori is doing. The projects were mentioned and how people live and use those routes. The schools that were revamping, how people and their children use those schools. The hospitals that were giving new life to, how people use them. And if you know Deltans, and I'm sure you do because you have lived here and worked here, I'm very, very appreciative. Deltans are not going to be cooking rice and bringing to the governor to eat. The rice they will give him to eat is to reciprocate those gestures of government to the ballot box. So when people begin to just mention only political parties, that is just a vehicle that yes, you need to use, but in taking advantage of that vehicle, you must first of all meet the people at their point of need, particularly as very well spelled out in Section 14, subsection 2, paragraph B of the 1999 Constitution, which makes security and welfare of the people the primary purpose of government. When you see that Delta has become very attractive, and today we house the highest and the fastest growing capital. It's not by magic. It is because we have also been able to bring to bear issue of security, thereby giving vent to that particular constitutional provision in Section 14, Subsection 2, Paragraph B. So if that happens, as we approach the polls, we're not going to be telling them, vote for us, we're APC. We will say, vote for us because we did this rule. Vote for us because that school that you're talking about, we revamped it. Vote for us because we are able to take care of our elderly. Vote for us because we are also ensuring that through our humanitarian intervention that we are taking care of a number of persons. Vote for us because we have brought peace to your state. And even when others are running hater-skater, Delta remains very, very safe and on sound footing. And above all, vote for us because we are changing the skyline through the several bridges and flyovers that the Oborowori administration is building. Vote for us because the civil servants are paid as at when due. Those are the things we are going to put in the report card. Every one of that report card is going to be a political party called the APC. So it's not a question of telling us, is it going to be between this party versus this party? It will be anybody versus the achievements of the Oborowori administration. And you know the good thing? Those achievements are very, very visible. We don't need to do propaganda. And that's why I tell you that the government has made my job very, very easy. Because I can point to what we are doing. I don't need to cook it up. I can't challenge anybody. Say, tell me your local government and I'll tell you what Oborowori is doing. The way we are going now in 2026, we know to even reduce the larger contract the space a little more and begin to talk about words. Someone says, okay, what one is your word? Is your word close to this one? Is this word? Is it not that you have not seen this thing that's happening in that word? That's what we are progressing to. And once you do that, the leaders who will canvass for vote in that environment will have what they are holding that is tangible to the people and verifiable. And so, that is where the Oborowori trend will come from. Not the issue of just politicking. And which is why we said, in spite of the issues around 2027, we will remain focused with respect to governance and adding value to the livelihood of our people.
As we round off, I have two questions. The first one, are you not worried? There were gladiators in the APC before, your people, you and your people, or let me say the governor and his people, left to go into the APC. There is a Minister of Education, Festus Keyamo. There is a former Deputy Senate President, Ojemakinde. All of these people have been in the APC. How do you manage the leadership of the APC now in Delta?
Have you followed these people before? Have you followed their political growth? If you follow, you know that those persons were also in PDP before. So the only is a question of who went first. It's just that they moved in first. So which means brothers are coming to meet brothers. They were, if you recall, Ojemakinde was once upon a time an SH in Delta under the Udua administration. Under the Ibori administration. As SSG. No, under the Udua administration. As SSG. Which party? So you must be able to understand these issues. If he was SSG under a particular administration, under the Ibori administration, that was a PDP administration. Before that time, he had other smaller positions. He wanted also to become a governor of the state under the same PDP. So the only difference is that he moved into the APC earlier than other persons who just came in. The same thing, Festus Keyamo, at the earlier times, before he even moved into APC, it was PDP he was, relating with. So we must be able to understand those issues. And secondly, even if people moved into a house, like a tenant, when you build a house of about, say, 4 different flats, and there are earlier tenants, but a new tenant comes in, does not mean that they cannot relate. It's a question of management, what the landlord does. Okay, this is the rule, this area to go, you here, and who is the landlord in this case? The party and the governor, who is the leader of the party in the state. It's marrying everybody. Bit by bit, people are beginning to agree. Because the only issues of disagreement and not personal. It's about interest. If they say it's a permanent in politics. Interest and permanent. Every other thing may change. So by the time your interests agree, that these interests I have, and these are these interests you have, both of you will agree. And there's a whole lot of space that you can use to manage the people. You want to be governor? There will be only one governor at a time. If you cannot be governor, can you be honorable member of the House of Assembly? Can you be a member of the House of Reps? Can you be a member of the Senate? Can you become an ambassadorial nominee? Can you become a ministerial nominee? Can you work in any of the federal boards? All those ones come to take care of those different interests that individuals have. It's a question of you understanding that you may not have directly what is your interest per time, because there will be one person in most of those places per time. For instance, it's not like an appointed position where you can maybe have one or two persons. For some of these elected positions, these constituencies, senatorial districts are already mapped out. You cannot walk out tomorrow and say you are very, very hungry that you want to also become a governor of Delta. Two persons. No, it has to be one person. The only way you can have two persons from Delta becoming governors is if they divide the state into two. Then one will come from another place, which will be like one Bender. Today, former Bender now have two governors, governor of Edo and governor of Delta. Otherwise, if we were to be one Bender, there will be one governor. It means that one of them will not have any governor. So that's the way it is. So they are managing those differences. You now have much more smoother relationship than it used to be. And so going into the election, I am sure that they will be able to also cement the bonds that binds members of the party together, knowing that they are also going out there to face other persons who may belong to other political parties.
Okay, I'll end with security. You confidently said earlier that Delta is very safe for the people of Delta. Is it that the government has done anything differently? Is it that the government has improved the lives of the Nigerian police force in the state? Is it that the government has set up any trust fund? Is it that the government has built another security outfit for Delta? What gives you that confidence? What gives you the confidence that if there is any external aggression, attack, that Delta will still remain what it is?
First of all, you must know that anger is one of the catalysts for insecurity. When people are angry, sometimes they do ordinarily what they wouldn't have done if they are okay. So if as a government you proceed to reduce anger, you would have also been able to landly reduce insecurity. I give you for instance. Long before now, the destruction of pipelines was prevalent much more in Delta. But today, that enterprise is no longer lucrative, because we have also been able to see that to whom much is given, much is expected. These different communities have been able to, through their God-given resources beneath their soil, been able to help in the issue of oil exploration and exploitation. Now, what's our government doing differently? To be able to also take projects back to them to say, yes, you may be living in the coastal communities, but you cannot be sentenced to death sentence on account of your geographical location. Now, what we have to do is to be able to also improve the lot of these persons by building infrastructure within that particular corridor. That way, you reduce anger. Now, we also have a different kind of programs and projects that you see in different communities, which also help to manage the anger. Now, leaving the issue of anger to come to the other fiscal things that we are doing. We have seen before now that you have interagency rivalry not helping the cause of security. Because when DSS, for instance, get the information, it wants to begin to prosecute it, even if the police would have been in a better position to address the issue, either depending because of either number or where they are located. Or you have the military, everybody trying to hold on to their own cocoon. But today, we have been able to bring them together such that intelligence sharing has become something like a commonplace in Delta. The different agencies are cooperating on account of the leadership the governor is providing through the State Security Committee. All that is being addressed. Then we are also trying as much as possible to provide them with certain logistics. Of course, it's the issue of security. There are certain areas I will not want to go into because you do not just wake up not thinking that the other people are not also planning. It's just that it's not easy for them. If not every day, the bad ones are planning. But the effort of their security agencies is what part of what is helping us. We're also getting a whole lot of cooperation from our people. Once you have that and anger is reduced, you begin to even see, without having to push it out there in the public, a whole lot happening. Good enough, because we know that security cannot just be the purpose of the ability of government to do A or B. That you also require some private intervention. Not too long ago, we launched the Security Trust Fund, Delta State Security Trust Fund, and we raised quite a reasonable amount of money from members of the public. There are those who pledged who are moving to them for them to redeem their pledges. And at the end of the day, we are now also going to add more logistics, whether in terms of vehicles, in terms of communication gadgets, and many other things, even in terms of providing additional ammunition for them to be able to do this. But what we have discovered today is that the job of security has gone beyond just physical fight or just put on ground. That you need largely technology to be able to deal with it. Where you have technology and 30 soldiers, you will perform more than where you have 100 soldiers without technology. Because technology will help you, first of all, reduce the casualty level when there is in terms of confrontation. But technology would have been able to show you the strength and the weakness of the enemy, where the enemy is located, so that once you want to launch an attack, you'll be able to mitigate the incidences of some form of collateral damage. And so we're also investing in that direction, and we're quite confident that going forward, that our state will become much more safer. So the skyline of Media Babangida that you're seeing that is different from what you used to didn't just happen overnight. It happened because business here is moving on account of a very secure environment that we have in Delta. And we hope by the grace of God, we are going to be able to sustain it through some of the effort that I just mentioned that we're making.
Okay, some of the things you said is bringing this security matter. The people of Delta, or let me just say, people generally don't like giving intelligence to the police because they believe that many times when they give to the police, it is likely that there is compromise and there might be a fight back on them from those who they reported. Is the Delta State government thinking about having a free sole security number where people can actually come and say, we saw this one here, or this is happening here, and then the government can now take those information and give to the security?
There have always been numbers. The fact is that what has happened over time, like you rightly mentioned, is your trust deficit. So even when the individual want to give us information, he begin to wonder, am I going to become a victim of this patriotism I'm going to display, or what else? But what we have done to be able to reduce that fear is that there are a number of layers that you need to be able to have to access getting this information to the powers that be. Because you may be in a village, you don't have the governor's number, you don't have the commissioner's number, there are bigger people, you may not have their number, but there are some SAs who are your brothers and sisters who live with you, SA or security, SA or youth mobilization. All those ones are within, they counsel us, they are within, they are their friends, they are their sisters, they are relations. So you can give information to them and it still gets to the government. But beyond that, we have also seen the need to get the people to interact with us. So governor by himself decided to have to introduce a whistleblower policy. The whistleblower policy has a number. Good enough, that number is being managed directly by the governor himself. Once you send a WhatsApp message, whether it's in terms of poorly constructed project or any other thing that can add value to the growth of the state, the governor sees it direct. In a number of instances, if the need arises, he responds directly to the people. In some other instances, he forwards whether the visual or whatever information that is given to the relevant agency to be able to act upon. So that is also helping us in a number of ways. But what has helped largely too is the issue of decentralizing the information management, security information management, through these other persons. That it is my brother, I can trust my brother that he's not going to betray me. That way we have been able to deal with largely issue of trust deficit that exists. Oftentimes, it's not easy to get the people to trust security agencies on account of what has happened in time past. But now we are breaking that barrier by having multi-layer reporting system where individuals can talk to their brother, counselor, talk to your brother, SP, talk to another of your brother, SSP, talk to your elder brother, whatever, executive assistant, and in that regard, you are able to now, at the end of the day, get across to government for approach to be taken.
Okay, so I have to go, but for the road, and this is on a lighter note, Honorable Charles Ehiedu Aniagwu, you have double toga. You are commissioner for works on maybe the rural
Riverine
roads, and then you are commissioner for information. this is not, some people will say, won't that become like an albatross?
You know, well, he pleased the governor, and I must say a very big thank you to His Excellency for finding me worthy to hold these two different positions than one. And by the grace of God, it's almost a year now. I'm sure nobody has complained that any of the ministers is suffering on account of we paying so much attention to one other one. I know that there's a responsibility. What of the governor who oversees every other ministry? He's also a human being. He's every other person reports to him. What of the SSG's office where you have most of these things coming to? So it's not very easy, but once you have commitment and you are able to know that you have the time. For instance, once it's 7:50, I'm leaving you can't come to my house to meet me. I'm already set out for work. I go to government house, join the chapel, thanksgiving to God Almighty for 30 minutes, and by 8:40, I'm back to my ministry. Once I come to Ministry of Works, I work till around 12, deal with a whole lot of things, and by 12:10, depending on the issue I'm dealing with, I proceed to information. Or sometimes I go to information much earlier, or I start from there, depending on what load of work I have. And it's flowing very, very smoothly. I give God the glory. Not easy though, but at least it's surmountable.
Honorable Charles Ehiedu Aniagwu, Honorable Commissioner for Works, Rural and Riverine Areas, and the Honorable Commissioner for Information, Delta State. It's been nice talking to you.
Thank you. God bless you, and nice to see you again. It's been a long while.